No, I think. Okay, here we go. There's are you Charlie Lynn Gals?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Kip Ford's in.
Computer on.
Volume on. I can barely. No, nothing.
Are you, which Wi-Fi are you in?
In the library.
My TOR guest. Candy, why don't you mute yourself while we're trying to
Yes,
set
I
this
did.
up?
You need to tell him that you're on.
TOR guest.
Kip Ford is not. I don't know how
It says that enter the password.
Huh? Internet password? Okay. Get me on line 203.
Capital G.
Hey, guys. Hi, Tammy.
He
Can't hear anything. Maybe they've got everything.
Mike, you're on mute.
I was over there.
Over there where? I looked all the way down.
Oh, here
there.
I am. Okay, sit down.
What? I can't.
Mike, I can't hear you. Are you unmuted?
Good evening, everybody. We've got 62 people on and we're just waiting for a few more to join. Okay, hope.
Well, we can just start a little dialogue. Thanks, everybody, for having our first big Zoom meeting for the 6th Taxing District. We hope you're all safe at home and social distancing. just going to wait for a few more people to come on to the meeting before we follow our agenda. And just so you know, the order of the agenda, we're going to talk about bridge jumping first, then the fence, and then Bailey Beach, summer concerts, then reopening the community center, an update on Rowayton Avenue, update on the railroad station, and issues of security. And everybody will be allowed to speak, but you have to raise your hand in the format, in the chat, and then people will be given 3 minutes to speak on whatever topic they want. We'll take one topic at a time, and then we'll have comments.
Just turn off this sound on your phone.
It's up in the top right.
Oh, this.
Are we still getting more people?
71,
Okay.
604.
Okay. As soon as John can figure out how to move. Did you get it on your computer? Did you get it?
What?
Did you mute it?
Well, I can't right now with the baby. I got one now.
I'm about to feed a burger and stuff, so
Oh, I thought you were dead.
I made it, I just haven't cooked it.
Okay, we'll do as much as we can, bud.
With what?
Let's see to build one of the Legos.
We'll bring it up.
Message. Okay, we're going to start the meeting now. And I hope that everybody can put their device on mute so we don't get an echo.
You have to turn the sound off your phone.
Yes. Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. All right, so thank you again, everybody, for joining the 6th Taxing District meeting. We have a lot of people who have joined this Zoom call. It's over 75 people at this point. We're going to take the agenda in order, and after each topic, we'll ask for comments from the audience. And the first issue of concern is the bridge over to Bell Island. We have noticed a large increase in mostly young people jumping off the bridge recently, and we are inundated with more walkers these days, and distracted walking and distracted driving. And we have concerns that a lot of the young people that are jumping and not at the appropriate tide, that perhaps they're not aware when it's high tide or low tide and when it's a good time to jump. And we're certainly concerned about the road staying open. We don't want pedestrians to get hit. We don't want jumpers to get hit. We want everybody to know that the 6th Taxing District does not own the bridge. It's a city road, so it's city property. The history of bridge jumping goes back years and years. It's been a tradition in Rowayton for probably as long as the bridge has been there, way before my 28 or 9 plus years here. But we want to address the residents' concern, and the commissioners have been talking, and we've received a number of emails from people with suggestions on how we might improve the situation. And one of the suggestions that we would like to put forward for safety is to, one, paint a line on the third stone down below high tide, because that is when people can jump, but if the water goes below that line, they should not be jumping. We'd like to put a sign on the road as you approach the bridge to state the rules and not jump at low tide, and to try to keep out of the roadway. The social distancing is certainly more of a challenge with everything, and the young people, teenagers, etc., really don't seem to have the concept of social distancing. They're pack creatures. They want to hang out together. And we would like to try to educate people. And we also need to let residents know that if they see a large group and it's a problem, that really it's a police issue, and they should call the Norwalk non-emergency number, and we'll give that number now, but we'll also post it. It's 203-854-3000. Again, 203-854-3000. And tell the police that, there are too many people congregating on the bridge. We also had an idea of perhaps having a little contest with the young people to post in social media that jumping a certain low tide is very dangerous. So we're working on that. We might come up with a little theme and start a competition. Another thought that we had is to possibly send some of our lifeguards to Real Beach over to the bridge. There are going to be certain evenings, high tide, and there are people there that want to fish, there are people there that want to jump, and how do they coexist, and how do we sort of thin the crowd? Again, it's a public road. We cannot tell people that they cannot be there. We can tell them to get out of the street if they're blocking the way, but we have to adhere to city rules, and this is a city road. So both my other commissioners are sitting here. We're socially distanced, sitting in a conference room. I'm going to ask Mike, Sonny, they have comments they'd like to add with regard to the bridge jumping issues. We will appreciate the emails that you send us with suggestions. So if you have any suggestions that you would like to make.
No, I think the ones you made are perfect.
Thank you.
We did discuss this as commissioners as this was developing, and I think we thought about this, and we know our jurisdiction here is a little not unclear, but it really is in our jurisdiction. As leaders of our community, I think we feel we're going to try to make some efforts because the city at the end of the day, their option will be just to shut the bridge down. So I think we're going to try to do a number of things, as Stan mentioned, we'll experiment with our lifeguards and see if we can manage those crowds on those high tide weekend days when the tide's in the middle of the day.
Okay, there are some comments that people can't seem to understand us. If somebody can tell us what you can understand or
garbled, I guess because we're speaking off your machine.
We'll try to speak more clearly and mute and unmute each other as we go along. Thanks for the feedback. Someone says it helps to turn off your video when you're talking. All right, well, what then I'd like to do is try to open it up to members of the audience for their comments regarding the Bell Island Bridge.
So if you would just put your hand up or mention in chat that you want to speak, I will call on you one by one, and you will have 3 minutes to voice your comments. Okay?
Yes, Bob McGrody. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for putting this on. I appreciate it. I live on Bell Island and close to the bridge. And in the 20 years we've lived here, this is an overwhelming group coming from communities as far as New York City. And we get people who not only jump on the bridges, but Bell Island, all our parks are private. So bunches of them go to the beach, either East Beach or South Beach. I went past there just before this meeting. There was a whole contingent on Pine Point. And they just kind of take over the community here. We've had the police try to help us. At one point, they had to disperse 35 people off South Beach. So we'd love to get some help here so it becomes more of a community event, which when we first came here, there were signs on the bridges, you can't jump. And I've talked to the lawyers in Norwalk, and they thought it was a good idea to have that because it's we're not covered as the city for if anything happens to the bridge. It's, an attractive nuisance, a legal term. I'm not a lawyer, but so I think, some controlling mechanisms, you see kids running across the road and, cars are stopping and, it's only a matter of time. So I just appreciate you bringing this up. I think it needs some attention, and anything I can do to help in that, I'd like to do.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have considered putting a sign up most recently, and I know in the past there have been signs, and sadly they usually get removed. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to keep putting them up. And a long time ago, Hal Alvord, the head of DPW, was going to completely fence the entire bridge and had to chain link all the way across. We think it would be rather unsightly and a sad thing. If we can work on dispersing the large groups that congregate, there are going to be certain times, especially high tide in the evening, particularly around the 4th of July, the end of summer when the kids are thinking about going back to school. But we do have our own security guard in the summer for the 6th taxing district, and we will ask that person to make an extra attempt to go there during the high tides.
If I just add one thing, that a lot of the people who are coming here are being dropped off by their parents, and they're there. This is their beach, and Bell Island is their community. So they bring their lunches with them and the like, and they're here low tide, high tide. You can see them, and this is where they hang. Obviously social distancing is not part of the vocabulary, but so it's an issue that's gotten out of control, I think, at this point, versus kids jumping off the bridge. They're lined up. It's only a matter of time somebody gets hurt.
Yes, and we've become a very popular destination, and now this summer we have a lot of new renters in, primarily from the city, who might not know and might be experimenting with bridge jumping for the first time. But we'll, we cooperate with the police and really ask them to patrol. And I would imagine that Bell Island also has a security person that you might have them patrol the bridge as well if they're on.
Well, we hire police officers, so they don't think that they have the legal authority to do anything until somebody gives them that legal authority.
Well, it's a city road, so I mean, the 6th taxing district can certainly call them and say, we give you the authority to disperse large groups on the bridge, and we'll be happy to send that to the chief, and he can let his officers know.
That's great. Thank you very much. I know that he's aware of this.
Yes. Okay, we will do that. And then if you can please let your guard know, or your officer, the same thing. And then, they'll get the message from more than one place.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
And Kip Ford is next.
Okay, Kip Ford, I think you raised your hand. We're trying to unmute you, Kip.
You can never mute Kip.
Kip, I think you're on.
Hi, Tammy. How are you?
Hi, fine, thanks. How are you?
Good. A lot of these points I had sent to Mike a list of things, but most of these have been talked about. Social distancing, the crowds. This is not just children, though. There are a lot of adults there with the kids. And when the cars try and get through, they kind of grin and they laugh when the kids are out in the middle of the street and all that. I had to slam on my brakes, and I'm only going 15 or something, but I mean, I had to literally stop because a kid walked across the street without looking, and somebody's going to get hurt with the large number of people we've got there. That brings up the other point, which is the police and calling them in the event that there's a crowd there, or in the case of our neighborhood, if there's parking on roads where they're not supposed to be parking, which is happening all the time as well. And we're not getting responsiveness, or I guess I should say, they say they will get by, but you know, often it's half an hour, 45 minutes before we see a police car come down. They are really not being responsive when it comes to the parking or to the crowds. And I think it's just, they see this as a ritual that, you know, no harm, no foul kind of a thing, but somebody will get hurt. And frankly, from the point of view of our roads, including our road of Brown, people park on the wrong side of the road, and then somebody comes along and parks where they're supposed to, and there's no room for an ambulance or a fire truck to come by. And this is at a time when we have this coronavirus going on. So I think we're not getting enforcement really, and that is a major point that I'd like to make.
Mm-hmm. Well, perhaps a letter from the Belle Island Association. I believe Melissa McKeithen has been in touch. I don't know. And that might be good if we all send from all different directions. Maybe they'll get the message.
Well, and that would be helpful if 6th District as well were to, you know, nobody gets a ticket in Rowayton. You don't get a ticket if you drive through a stop sign, or you don't get a ticket if you're speeding. There's a sense, I think, that the police don't really want to be unfriendly toward Rowaytonites. And here's an instance where that could be dangerous.
Right.
So those are my comments.
Thank you very much. And the next person is
Bob Vietro.
Bob Yetro.
Vietro.
Vietro, excuse me.
Yes. Hi, I live on Belle Island. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm sure that you will be consulting lawyers, but it seems to me if you do anything like paint a line and indicating that it's unsafe to jump if the water's not reached that line, you're almost by association inviting them to jump. So I would be cautious about any, it's kind of paradoxical, but any information regarding the safety to dive is like saying dive when it's safe. And I don't know if that's the intention. And you don't want to, by association, assume responsibility and legal responsibility for that.
In years past, and maybe many, many years ago, it tended to be local people that were jumping, and they all knew what high tide was and low tide.
You're muted.
Thank you.
You're unmuted.
I think am I unmuted now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Let me turn up your volume.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
But that's okay. It's new technology for all of us. But I was saying that a long time ago it was mostly locals and people that understood high tide and low tide. And we think some of the mostly kids that are coming over don't understand the tide, and we're trying to prevent a tragedy. And we could put up a sign, do not jump, but I can assure you that as soon as we put it up, it will be taken down. And you make a good point, and maybe we could check with our council to see where our liability begins and ends. And once again, the taxing district really doesn't have any control over the bridge. It's city property. And I know it's frustrating to the residents, and we call the police. They take a very long time to respond because they don't think that's an emergency either, you know, and it's such a delicate balance.
Okay, Doug Thompson wants to speak.
Okay, and next, Doug Thompson.
So, hi, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Doug. I live just up the street from the bridge. I'm a longtime Rowayton resident. I've been here for 22 years. Bridge jumping was definitely a very integral part of my childhood, as I'm sure it was for many people on this call. I know it was built in 1939, and people have been jumping since day one. Some good points have been made about safety that I think should be explored. I'd suggest maybe putting up a sign saying jump at your own risk, although as Tammy said, it's a good chance it would be taken down. We could also notify potential jumpers about the risk of jumping at low tide, that it's dangerous. But I just wanted to be clear, that being said, these kids do have every right to jump and enjoy this 80-year or 81-year Rowayton landmark. I drafted this statement today because I feel the need to state the obvious. The Bell Island Bridge is a public place owned by the city of Norwalk, where all people, irrespective of origin, are entitled to fish, swim, and even jump from the bridge during safe times. I totally understand from the perspective of many people on this call that it can be frustrating when you have large crowds of people making noise outside your house when you're just trying to relax. But again, it is a public place. It's not a private community, the bridge itself, and people have every right to be there. Totally understood. If people are congregating at East Beach or that park by Farm Creek, that's Bell Island, not okay, but the bridge is different. You guys chose to live here. I was there the other day, and an officer was called on me, and he, again, was very friendly and just plainly said that it's a public place and you have the right to be there. And this brings me to my final broader point, and it brings me no pleasure in saying this, but I believe it has to be said. I know there's been plenty of complaining over the years that, you know, people about all the kids, and there really is many people who just do not like lots of kids in their view, especially out-of-town kids. I know there's been a lot of complaints about people from New Canaan and Darien, but especially people, you know, more diverse crowds from South Norwalk. I realize there are other issues at hand, but if we're truly having an honest discussion about people's issue with bridge jumping, the 6TD needs to weigh all dimensions of people's opposition. I do not think this is about safety. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Doug. The next person up.
I think that's it.
So, does anybody else have any comments they'd like to make regarding the Bell Island Bridge? You can raise your hand or send in a chat. Okay, thank you then. We're going to move on to the next topic, which is the fence, the fence at the old school field on Rowayton Avenue. And the commissioners have written a statement, and the primary concern recently is that a sign that said Black Lives Matter was put on the fence. It was defaced. It was taken down. Another sign was put up. It was put behind the fence. It was not defaced. And then another sign yet again was put up on the fence, and it had writing on it again. So the commissioners are going to read a statement that we've put together, and then I'm going to read the old school fence rules because we manage that property for the city of Norwalk. So we, the commissioners of the 6th Taxing District, Tammy Gallus, Mike Barbas, and John Ignieri of the city of Norwalk, stand with residents against systemic racism. We are saddened by the death of George Floyd and others who have lost their lives in a similar fashion. We agree that Black Lives Matter. As commissioners, our job is to administer the 6 taxing district properties, which include the Community Center, Bailey Beach, Pinckney Park, the Rowayton Arts Center, Ambler parking lot, and jointly manage the train station parking lot with Connecticut DOT. We have no legislative powers. Unlike the Common Council in the city of Norwalk, we do not have the authority to pass rules and regulations to try to stop racism. That is the job of the city and the state. Part of our job is to manage the fence as you enter Rowayton. The fence, as part of the old school field or Witch Lane Park, is owned by the city of Norwalk. The city has allowed us over the years through mutual agreement to monitor and pass rules for posting signs on the fence. One of those rules is not to allow political signs. The issue in front of us today is, does the Black Lives Matter sign make a political statement, which is technically not allowed on the fence? The commissioners have elected not to enforce our political sign rule, given the importance of this issue. And now I'm going to read the old school fence rules. The old school fence is to be used for local announcements, local events, and local promotions. No political signs. Given the limited space, The fence will be for Rowayton residents and Rowayton organizations only. We ask that users send a note to info@rowayton6td.com when they put up a sign for events and personal messages. This is so the 6TD knows who owns the sign and we can monitor the length of time it is being hung. Promotions for events can go up to 6 weeks prior to the event, but we ask it is taken down immediately after the event is over. For personal messages, things like congratulations, happy birthday, welcome home type of signs, we ask that they are up for no more than 2 weeks. The 6th Taxing District will monitor this to ensure that the signs do not overstay their welcome.
This is all on our website.
Right, these rules are on the 6th Taxing District website. Over on the left sidebar, you can find them. So now I would just like to set the record straight as to our understanding of what happened with the signs. I did sort of allude to it before, but the first sign that was removed by the police, and they did not notify the commissioners when that was done. We found out subsequently. The second sign that was put behind the fence was just left there, and then I guess it was put back up, and then somebody wrote on it again, and it now has been removed. So the commissioners, as we said in our statement, are not opposed to having the sign there. So I would like to now open it up to residents that would like to make a comment.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, please either put it in the chat room or raise your hand. It's hard for us to see your hand, so if you can put in the chat. Okay, thank you, Mark Herzling.
Hey, I just wanted to say that I think, first of all, as you stated, it's a very important topic, and just want to let you know that we're currently producing another sign to put back up. So the property that was defaced is been removed, and another sign will go back up. And I just wanted to say too that the outpouring of support from Rowaytonites and people in the surrounding community just has been outstanding. I think that it's obviously a very it's not a very diverse group in terms of residents, and the outpouring of support in terms of supporting the Black Lives Matter movement and just being against systematic racism has been overwhelmingly positive. So I just want to thank everybody for that and let you know the sign will go back up, and thank you to the commissioners for really understanding that this is not a political statement. It's not for one party or another party. It's just for humanity and equality. So I want to thank you guys for that decision you made.
Okay, the next speaker is
Thank you, Mark.
Robert Finch.
The next speaker is Robert Finch.
Unmute yourself.
Robert, if you can unmute.
No, I can't do it for some reason.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tammy and Mike. I didn't understand if it was determined that it was political, or it was hard to hear, or which category did it fall into, a category that wouldn't allow it to be on the fence, or that's what we're trying to figure out.
The commissioners not really make a statement whether we thought it was a political sign or not, but we feel that it's important to the community, and that's why we're allowing it to be there.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, that was my question. I didn't know how they stood on it. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I don't see anyone else.
Okay. Would anybody else like to speak? Please either put the little chat, say that you want to chat, raise your hand.
Screen.
Okay, it doesn't seem like anyone does.
Oh, somebody would. Brett Arnold, would you like to speak? Please unmute yourself. Okay.
Can you hear us?
Yep, we can see you. We can.
This is Brent Arnold and
Hello.
Jane Seymour. And I just wanted to say thanks, Mark, for everything you just said. We totally agree. We are planning on putting a new sign up, and we started a fundraiser yesterday after the sign was vandalized on GoFundMe, and to raise $160 that it'll cost to get a new sign made, and to also do a donation towards the Carver Foundation in Norwalk. And as of right now, we've raised $2,400. So, you know, one of the reasons why, I'm sorry, my 2-year-old is running around in the background, so you're gonna maybe hear her yelling. You know, one of the reasons why we feel this is important is there's not a large presence of the Black community within Rowayton, but Rowayton is a part of Norwalk. And Norwalk has a large presence of that. And we want to show our support for the community. And sorry, everyone.
We understand.
And really express how Rowayton is trying to, you know, show the importance of equality and acceptance and love through this huge movement that's going on. So it's been wonderful to see the donations come in. As I said, it's only been up since yesterday, since the sign went down. We're gonna keep it up for a few more days, but it felt really nice to bring in some more money to have a new sign printed and then to donate it towards a local charity that's all about helping the children of Norwalk with education and school programs and summer programs and really giving back. So there's been a lot of support, and that's been really incredible. So we hope that when the new sign goes up, maybe we can see some progress and not have this one vandalized, but through each step we take, we hope to kind of keep the conversation going and take a bigger step each time to do something a little bit more and a little bit better. And Mark posted that link to the GoFundMe site on Nextdoor. So if anyone hasn't seen it yet, you can go there to donate more. We're gonna plan on having this go through until end of day Friday.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
I don't think so. Oh, Ann
yes,
Magnin.
I'm Ann Magnin. And if you can unmute.
I don't think she can.
Okay.
I think I have to do it for
All right.
her, and I just don't know.
Okay. Take your time. We're trying to unmute you too, Ann. We just need to find you in the crowd. I think her name was all together. Okay, we're just about there.
Yeah, she can speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for reading the statement. I'm trying to remember the first part because that's the part that resonates me. My question is, how are you going to communicate your position on this matter, that racism is unacceptable? Is this going to be, how is this going to be communicated? Via email, via the website? How are you going to get that message across to Rowayton residents?
Well, we first came to the public with it at our meeting here because we felt this was the public forum. Okay. And if we had had an in-person meeting like we normally do, we would have read it then, and we can post it on our website.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay. Okay, if not, then we'll move on to the next topic, which is the summer concerts at Bailey Beach, or summer concerts in general. And Mike is going to speak to that.
You mute yourself, Tammy. I'm trying to mute you, but maybe just turn off your phone. So,
doing it myself.
As everybody knows, the Rowayton Civic Association sponsors a concert series that is split between Bailey Beach and Pinckney Park. And we had put everything on hold, waiting to see how everything was playing out. As many, if not all of you know, the state today went into phase 2, which allows for more activities, but it is not a return to normal either. But regardless of the state regulations, the commissioners have discussed this, and looking at the beach and knowing how the concerts play out, we just do not think there is a way for these concerts to take place in a manner that is in keeping with the standards and the protocols that exist currently in the pandemic. So at this point, we have decided not to allow concerts at Bailey Beach or Pinckney for the time being. Obviously, if circumstances change, we can review this, but the RCA did have one very up-and-coming band they were very excited to host from Canada on July 19th, but we just feel at this point this is premature. Is there anyone who would like to make any comments on this? Okay, I think we'll move on to the next agenda topic. Okay, our next topic is the reopening of the community center. If any of you are familiar, we have closed the complex, the inside, since March, I think, 16th. And we haven't had any meetings here. You couldn't rent the facilities. Our offices have been closed. Our employees have by and large been working from home or out in the field. And the dog park, what happened to be closed during this period because of it was reseeding. We reseeded every spring. The dog park has reopened, but that is all obviously outside. And paddle tennis did suspend their activities, although they are looking at starting them up. I think they did start them up again for singles play. But by and large, the interior of the building has been closed, as has been the library. And if you've noticed, the library has a phased reopening in the works that they've announced. Rowayton's librarian is on this call if anyone have any specific questions, but I think they've been publicizing their plans. And the commissioners have decided we will not be reopening the community center, as you know, in terms of the building being open every day and activities planned. But we will be reopening the community center kind of invitation only. So if someone has an event, if we feel it meets, it can be done safely, the numbers aren't too big, a meeting for 10 people, something like that, then the community center will be open for those events, but it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. And obviously, this is subject to review as we go down the road, as fall starts, and a lot of different activities that take place in the fall, are being considered. We'll just have to look at that on a case-by-case basis. So at this point, it's opening partially. Christina, did you want to say anything in here about the library?
Sorry, can you hear me? So as of right now, the library, we were going off of the city phase plan, which had said that patrons couldn't enter the library until phase 4, but then the state plan changed it until the phase that opened today. The library right now, we're going to be offering curbside pickup beginning this upcoming Monday. So you can place holds online and pick them up and grab them, and essentially library takeout beginning Monday. And we hope to be able to offer limited patron access beginning probably around July 6th. It's dependent on supplies and staff right now, but that's the date we're shooting for, to be able to open up the library on a limited schedule to patrons again, pending obviously district accessibility. And
Great, thank you, Christina. Does anyone have any questions for the commissioners or Christina about this? Doesn't look like there are any. Okay, our next topic. update on Route 136, which will be from John Igneri. What is triggering, what this is about is not necessarily about trucks, but about repaving and some sidewalk plans. But John, why don't you could just go on, because this is live. Yeah, yeah, mute yourself. Yep.
Good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Since I apparently was muted, I'll go back and start again. Tammy and I in particular, and with Tom Livingston and Lisa Shanahan, met with the DPW and walked a good part of Rowayton Avenue, pointing out areas that needed to be improved in this state project. You should all know that we didn't know about the state project until the beginning of the year when we received a letter. So after our walk and the areas we pointed out to be improved, DPW met with CONDOT, and they indicated they would be willing to further review, but no promises to do this, certain areas. They're looking at the possibility of storm drainage improvements across from the intersection of Pinckney Park and Panoia. They're looking to identify what ADA improvements can be made within this area and meet the necessary criteria. They're also going to look and investigate the design and act on whatever other ADA improvements can be made in 2022. And they're going to consider some point repairs on curbs and replacement of missing curbs where such repairs and replacements are deemed by the state as necessary. That means for the structural integrity and safety or to prevent soil erosion caused by runoff from the street. I'm reading their findings so that there's no confusion. There are several cutbacks or cutouts, I will call, where people cut out a driveway and then later filled in the property, but left the cutout in the curb. They have no intention to replace those. They feel it's the homeowner's problem, and they should be replacing that. They do not intend to replace any curbs for aesthetic purposes, and they will not propose any sidewalk or curb repairs, which should be done by the property owner. That's their finding. While that's going on, we don't know when that's going to take place. It was supposed to have started at this point, but the coronavirus has delayed many things, including our new paving. They are looking at starting shortly. We are also in the process of having a study done of Rowayton Avenue from the railroad station to town and Hunt Street. So we're going to look at that and come up with a plan, if any, for sidewalks. Once that's done, it will be presented to the city. It needs city approval. We will then have to get budget approval and so forth. So in the next few years, we may be seeing some sidewalks, but stay tuned. And that's all I have to say about 136 or the Rowayton Avenue project.
Thank you, John.
Any questions? The actual repair, we have, in terms of, if you're talking about the sidewalks, we have posted to hire an engineer to do that study. We haven't completed that posting and RFP process. We, the city. I'm sorry, I used to be on the Common Council. Tom Livingston and Lisa Shanahan will be marshaling this through the city for us. So it's started. It will take a few years. I hope that answers your question.
Anybody else? Okay, the next topic is the railroad station, which I'll do. Okay, so the next. Okay. All right, so the next topic on the agenda is an update on the railroad station. Two major things have happened somewhat as a result of the pandemic. We were able to repave both the inbound and the outbound side of the parking lot. It's been complete now for about 2 weeks. If you're a commuter, hopefully you're going to get back to commuting soon and you will appreciate the new paving and striping. The other thing, we have lost our concessionaire, Bobby, who'd been there for over 20 years. The gentleman that sold the newspapers and coffee and donuts in the hut, he has retired. If anybody is interested in taking on that job, please feel free to let us know. Or if you know somebody that's looking for a small business, we are happy to talk to those people. The other thing that we're doing differently at the railroad station is we are going back to annual permit renewal. For a number of years when we instituted the pay by app, we went to a monthly renewal for your permit, but now it's going to be going back to the annual, and the reception from the commuters has been very positive. And just for the record, the new price of a permit this year is going to be $330. We actually cut off 1 month of the permit cost because we felt the commuters, many of them have not been using the railroad station. And we also are paying the new state sales tax on parking. The current legislators enacted a parking tax, and the taxing district, just through the commuter funds, is absorbing that cost. So we hope our commuters are happy. Daily parking is still $7, and the station really looks good. So does anybody have any questions about the railroad?
Should you mention that we should have a DOT?
Well, yes, we manage the station for Connecticut DOT. We do not own the station, and it is a separate budget. So none of the railroad money is commingled with the taxing district money, just so you know. Sometimes we wish it were, but it's not. Okay, does anybody have any questions on the railroad? Okay, if not, we'll go on to an update of Bailey Beach from Commissioner Barbas.
Okay, as everyone knows or might not know, but the Bailey Beach was closed on April 10th. At the time, there was just too much activity there and not enough social distancing. And we were very concerned, and we probably could have done things a little differently, but that's what ended up happening. We did reopen the beach on May 15th with a number of rules, some of them types of rules we had never had before. We have loosened up those rules to a degree, and we're going to continue loosening them up as time wears on. So tonight, as of this Saturday, the beach will stay open an hour later, so the beach will be open till 9 p.m. Currently, we've been closing at 8 p.m. And we originally reopened starting at 9 a.m., but we now open at 8 a.m. We have gate guards at all times now, so that we have people there monitoring the situation, making sure that there's nothing kind of irresponsible going on or anything that would violate the protocols we've established. The basketball courts have been closed. Tennis did reopen. Volleyball is closed. And Little League will be reopening on a limited basis with rules that they've developed and established. So all in, things I think have gone quite smoothly there. We have a new team of lifeguards who took a little while getting up to speed, but I think we really are working well. We have a new concessionaire, Di's Sea Shanty, who started up last year, but she's really gotten some momentum and rave reviews. So I would urge all of you to give her a shot, check out her food and what she offers. And we are doing more work with cleaning the sand. This is not going to happen overnight, but it's a single by single process. There's not a fast home run on improving that situation, and we're always fighting Mother Nature. But really the biggest news is that the beach is open, and we always have staff there. We're cleaning the bathrooms every hour in the name of kind of public hygiene. And we are still restricting entry. We started with 60 people, which was a number we felt we could manage. We then went to 100. Now we're pretty much leaving it up to the lifeguards to determine whether they feel they can manage that size crowd, not just from a lifeguard point of view, but also from kind of social distancing point of view. Residents have to take responsibility for themselves, but we do want to provide some framework. And so our lifeguards are keeping tabs on that. So since we reopened on May 15th, their beach has been closed for 3 times, for each time pretty brief period. I think twice it was about 15 minutes. And this weekend on Sunday, it was for about a half an hour because the guards really felt there was too many people and too much activity there. So that's what's going on at Bailey Beach at the moment. And as I said, as time wears on, we could very well loosen things up further. But at this point, we continue to stick with there are no non-residents can come in and pay. So non-resident vehicles cannot come in and pay. Non-residents cannot walk in or ride their bikes and pay. You have to be a resident or a guest of a resident. Okay, Christina, I see you have a question, so I will unmute you because you had your hand up. Maybe you didn't want to speak?
Sorry, I just saw in the chat, Joe W. had a question to backtrack about the railroad for a second.
Okay. Oh, thanks for pointing that out. I was busy talking, so I hadn't seen that. I appreciate you pointing them out, and I will find Joe and make sure we get to ask them. It's a little confusing in this framework, but give me a second and I will ask that question. In the meantime, are there any questions about the beach? Yeah, oh, was that the next thing? Okay. Any questions about the beach? Okay, no. Joe, if you could just hold on with your railroad question. I have the next topic, and then we can kind of return to a railroad question. So the next question is really about kind of some of the safety issues that we've had, security. We do, as Tammy mentioned earlier, we do have a retired police officer who does work for us at certain times and patrols town. But we have had some large groups of kids at Bailey Beach after hours. And last Tuesday night, it was particularly out of control. And these kids, the police arrived, and as the kids ran, they vandalized some residents' property. And there were a number of kind of unfortunate incident in the RDA as a result of this. So the 6TD has always been in touch with our local police department. We do have a community police officer, Jeremy Sally, and we have always taken a stance that we would rather if some of our younger residents get caught trespassing, that they would just be given a warning. But I think after what we went through last summer and what we've gone through so far this year, we are going to step that up, and we are going to charge even juveniles with trespassing, and there are consequences to that. So we've tried to have a campaign on Nextdoor. We've tried to reach out to parents saying, you've got to be responsible for your kids. I mean, how there were 80 kids at 10:30 at night on a Tuesday night at Bailey Beach. Most of these kids are like sophomores in high school. Does raise some questions. So, but we're going to be working on the police. We put cameras at the pavilion that are on Wi-Fi and inform us right away when people are up there after hours, and we will be prosecuting. At the same time, you've probably seen and Nextdoor, heard from your neighbors, there has been pickup activity in terms of car break-ins. People continue to leave their cars unlocked, and this is problematic because these are kind of crimes of opportunity. The police do not think this is a crime wave per se, but there have been a pickup in car break-ins, but this is happening all across the city. There's been very similar activity to this in Cranberry, Silver Mine, or two of the communities in particular that have mentioned, as well as in our neighboring towns. There are groups of younger people who are walking around at night. They pull on car doors, they see which ones are unlocked, and they selectively take items. In many cases, the suspects are juveniles, although not all of them, and they do get investigated by the police department as well as by their detective bureau. But when someone's under 18, the rules are not as strict, and these kids don't get into much trouble. So these kids end up at the police department, and then they're back on the street shortly, and they're doing the same thing again. So we're working, and our common council members that John mentioned, Tom Livingston and Lisa Shanahan, they've been in discussions with the police. We've been in discussions with our representatives in Hartford to see if maybe the laws can be tweaked, if we can use these juvenile review bureau to help some of these juveniles that seem to be getting into trouble. But the police really encourage residents to make sure they lock their cars and to be very careful with their key fobs, not leave the cars in, not leave the key fobs in the cars. Some residents feel they should be able to do that, but it really is asking for trouble. And the police are really trying to step up their message that people do need to make sure they lock their cars and keep their key fobs inside their house. So that's kind of where we are with crime and with juveniles and with our properties. And hopefully we won't have too much nocturnal activity on our properties. I know there was a question. If anyone has any questions about the beach, I guess Alice Griffith, you wanted to say something. Let me just see. I need to find you in order to unmute you. Do you guys see her? What page? There's Joe for the train station. And Lisa.
Bottom right.
What page? What page? Oh, first page. Okay. Missed that. Okay. Hi, hold on. I'm trying to unmute you. Okay, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for the time. This is Bob Fassett. So, I would separate a little bit of the last pieces you had. I mean, obviously, the break-ins is a crime, and actions need to be done to actually prevent that from happening. So that part I would separate. But it just seems like with the bridge, with Bailey Beach, there's a lot of comments around the young people. This has always been a very kid-friendly town. I want to make sure it stays a kid-friendly town. It seems to be rather negative against the kids. Kids are going to be kids, and they've always done the bridge jumping. They've always been at the beach. I'm not saying that it should be sanctioned, as some people were talking about it earlier of that, but we can't get too anti-kids when we used to be a kid town. I don't know how that seems to be way too negative on what we're doing for some of these things. And taking police action on some of these, I don't know if that's what I think is the appropriate thing to be doing for it versus getting messages out to the parents, making sure they're aware, making sure that we get it back in control. I just don't know if the answer is let's start having police action on them. Like I said, I would separate out car break-ins. That's a whole different scenario in my view. But the other things, it's kids in town. And do we want to have that as our action to it? I just don't think that's the right thing. So,
Bob, I'll just say I don't disagree with you. I had my own team, but I will say we have had pretty big pickup in vandalism. broken bottles. Last year, Weburn had to close their pool for a day and spent, I forget exactly how much money, because these kids had filled their swimming pool with all sorts of stuff. Plants, trees, furniture items. I don't remember all the specifics. Our crew at the beach is constantly cleaning up garbage from these properties, from these parties. Same thing behind Rowayton School. And so I don't think, we can just brush these off that kids need to be kids. Kids need to learn some responsibility. And I'll tell you, last year in the fall, I went by the community center at 11 o'clock at night, and there were some kids partying by the paddle tennis, the fire pit. They had the fire pit going. And I spoke to these kids, and I've never been spoken to so rudely by a bunch of, these kids weren't even of driving age. And we hear this from our retired police officer who works for us. So it's one thing for kids to be kids, but these kids have an attitude and a sense of entitlement. They're doing property damage. So I don't think we can just kick back and say, oh, fine, whatever. These kids have to realize that there are rules, and they need to, they need to obey the rules. And, sure, we were all kids too, and we did different things, but I don't think we were destroying property. And there is a bunch of that happening. And when, authorities show up and try to say, okay, time to move on. I mean, a Rowayton resident is severely injured because of the behavior of a sophomore kid on Tuesday night last week. Now, whatever. Two rights don't make a wrong. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying.
I was going to say there was a lot more to that.
The whole thing has been stepped up, and to be honest with you, it seems a little out of control.
I agree. We need to get it back in control. All right. I don't know if starting to charge kids with felonies is the answer, or juvenile, whatever. But it seems, I agree that we need to make sure they get back in control. And you know me, I'm a big believer in they out of respect for their elders and everyone else. But we just can't get so much where we're starting to go against, or the juveniles are going to be a problem as a view in the town. There's a ton of really good kids in this town. I mean, a ton. And there are some that are a problem. I'm not disagreeing with that.
So
but
I think we're all ears as to how we should proceed here. I mean, it's not like, but we have gotten progressively more frustrated. And as I said, we had a campaign, we've reached out, we've asked parents, we need your help here. And it's kind of fallen off. It seems, we just haven't gotten any, we're having the same issues. We haven't made any progress.
All right.
But thank you. Someone did mention that there was, I guess, a public service ad. It's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? But, I just got a reminder message, from our property manager that, the garbage and the vandalism that takes place, we had multiple incidences last summer, broken, picnic tables, Adirondack chairs, broken glass everywhere, and that, whatever, our staff, there are better things they could be doing at their time. So anyway, that's where we are on that topic. And I guess an adult, or you can see in the group chat here, but all kids should respect 6TD property, and that's not necessarily happening. Okay, I think those are all the topics we wanted to cover. We did want to go back to Joe, who had a question about the train station, and I am going to find Joe right now. Joe, are you still there? I've unmuted you, so feel free to speak or ask your question.
I actually have two questions. One of them is, can we use our Belle Island ID to get onto Bailey Beach?
No. You need a Bailey Beach sticker. I mean, I don't know anything about the Belle Island IDs, but you can, need a Belle Island sticker. I mean, a Bailey Beach sticker or the walk-in card, and you can apply for that. The application's on our website on the Bailey Beach page if you haven't gotten one yet.
Okay.
We used to have walk-ins, but this year, because of COVID-19, we scratched that.
For the railroad station, how are you going to distribute the permits? Is it going to be online, or how is that going to happen?
Yeah, so the permits, they're not a physical sticker anymore. It's all online. What we did change this year is people were paying for their permits online monthly, and we are now switching that to you only have to pay once a year.
Okay, so that'll be sometime in June.
That, yeah, it's already underway. We had some problems with the app, but I think that has now been fixed. Okay, that has now been fixed. And so when you go to renew, you can choose to renew annually and then pay one shot for 12 months.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And we are sending out a letter that will clarify this, because I think we had sent out an email, but there were some problems with the app. It wasn't quite clear. And so we will be sending out a clarifying letter to all the permit holders.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, if I don't see any other questions or comments. If there is, we'd love to hear from you. You know how to reach us. We try to have, a pretty solid social media presence as well. But we are very reachable. People, I think, should know, Ed Carlson, who's on the call, is our property manager, as well as Jason O'Donnell, our assistant property manager. Our offices are unfortunately closed at the moment, but hopefully that won't be for too much longer. You want to close up?
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Perhaps we'll do this again next month, or maybe we can see you in person. We can meet out on the lawn at the community center. I see that Andy Meyerson is on the call, and I'd just like to thank him for helping us with our e-blasts. They're really helpful. We try to, boil things down and get the message out to everybody in the community, and we hope that you find those helpful. Obviously, you're looking at them because we got so many people to come to this call. So thank you again, Andy, for doing that and helping Mike Barbas, who is our tech support as well, not me. So if anybody wants to say anything else, please let us know. Otherwise, the commissioners are just going to tidy up a few little budget modification things that we have to do, and we will see you soon. See you around town. Thank you.
So I think if we drop off, so we're dropping, 52, 51, 50. As we drop to just staff, I'll do a unmute all.
Okay.
47, 45, 43.
Right. Okay, I'll unmute all now.
Okay.
Oh, this is. It's Gil.
Hello. All right, our district treasurer is there. Gil, sorry I didn't see you before.
I didn't have the camera on before.
All right, so for those commissioners, we have to just do a small budget modification. These are just sort of technical things. The first one has to do with the fire department. We bought some equipment for the fire department, and we're just moving a little surplus from one account to the other. So the explanation is to reappropriate funds available from the following capital fire department expense account to the capital fire department equipment purchase account, number 3540. And that is for the capital fire department radio system update account 3530 and the amount of $93. I'd like to make a motion to move to reappropriate the available funds from the above listed capital fire department expense account to the fund capital fire department equipment purchase account number 3540 in the amount of $93. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Neary moved. Okay, do we have any discussion or comments? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
It passed unanimously. Thank you.
Tammy?
All right. And
I mean, we're not going to do the other
okay.
motion tonight.
Gil, if you wanted to make a comment about the other Capital Community Center Phase 4, are we withdrawing that motion currently?
We're withdrawing that motion for tonight.
We should be able to speak.
Okay.
Yes, we're withdrawing it.
I can see you nodding like this, but I can't hear you. So yes, we're removing it.
We are
No, we're
removing.
not.
We are removing it. Can you hear me?
Tell him he might return his.
Yes, we're approving it.
speaker's down.
Thumbs up.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yep, go ahead, Gil.
Okay. Yes, we're tabling that for the time being.
Okay, we'll table that motion. All right, then that is it. Then that will be it for our motion to anybody else, any property managers.
Okay.
Ed?
And it's good timing with this time of supper.
Who's getting Chinese?
Wait, hold on. Let me see if I can unmute Ed. Mike departed the room. No, I can't do it.
There's training tonight. I get a text or email about training tonight. Okay. So it should be just super quick at 7:30. Okay.
Here, hold on, Ed. How are you? Ed, can you hear us?
4 roses on my nose.
I can't unmute. Can you unmute Ed?
Oh yeah, I hit unmute all. All participants. There it is.
Okay, Ed Carlson, please take the floor.
Okay. Brief fire marshal report. The state has gone with their career development training to a webinar format, which is going to be starting, has started in May, and it's going to be continue this month. All inspections are continuing according to schedule with their proper precautions taken using PPE and masks and gloves. We have been, I'll knock on my table, quiet with fires. There's been some investigations. I do have a concern of this coming 4th holiday with the amount of, we may see an increase in the number of private fireworks going off. I know I've heard a number of them in the evenings, different places in town. And I just hope it doesn't escalate like what I've been reading on the papers. In New York especially, not here, but people are cooped up, and with a lot of public displays not happening this 4th, I think we're going to see an increase in private displays or fireworks going on. But that's a police matter.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Does anybody have any questions for Ed? Okay, so none. Jason, are you still there? No, I think we lost our assistant property manager signed off. Okay. We have, wait, oh, hold on, he's muted, but he's gone dark. All right, well, we'll go back to Jason. We do have with us.
There he is.
Oh, Jason?
Yes, sorry about that. I was on diaper duty.
Go ahead. I'm sure you're glad to get back on the call.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then I'll ask you, are you on?
Yes. No, I'm not. I'm listening to you.
All right, Jason, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. I think you guys covered it in the first part of the meeting for the most part.
I'll just make a little plug for the the food scrap composting. It has been wildly successful. We started out with 2 bins, and now we are up to 6. And for those of you who don't know, the city of Norwalk asked the taxing district to do a test pilot on food scrap composting. We're collecting it, and it is being picked up by Nick's Curbside Compost. And the idea is to take wet garbage out of our garbage stream, and Curbside Composting recycles it into compost for the garden. And it's good for us because it will reduce our tipping fees. As we all know, wet garbage is one of the hardest things to burn. And so it's good if you can take it out of the waste stream for more than one reason. And The city will go live with the program in another part of Norwalk after July 1st, but Rowayton really has responded well to it. And so we're pleased for that. And the common council members, Lisa Shanahan was really instrumental in working with people in the city in helping us get that going. It was really their idea. So that's a good thing that's been happening in all of this crazy pandemic. All right, we have Andrea Woodworth here with us, District Clerk, who is going to just give us a little update on any issues that you have or any requests. No?
Nothing.
Okay, nothing from Andrea. All right, then do either of the commissioners have anything else they'd like to add?
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. You want me to? Or you- Okay, I was just going to mention that we've added 5 beautiful evergreens in Pinckney Park along the fence to All Seasons Marine. It really has enhanced the park, and if you're out walking, take a moment to look at it. It's very pretty. Thank you.
Right, and thank you, Jason. All right, well then, thank you everybody for coming to our Zoom taxing district meeting. Perhaps we'll see you at the next one. Stay well.
Thank you, commissioners.
Tammy, do you want the report? Treasurer's report? Mike?
Might be off the hook, Gil.
Mike, do you want the treasurer's report? Well,
Sorry, Gil, I think your volume needs to be turned up.
I
Because
could
we
hear
can't
him
hear
fine.
you at all, but you're unmuted.
It's funny, I could hear him fine.
Mike, do you want the
Do you
treasurer's
hear
report?
John? Do you hear what John just said?
Yes. Mike, can you hear me now? Do you want the treasurer's report?
Ed said that yesterday there were 82 people signed up.
Jason, can you hear me?
At 102.
I can hear you, Gil.
And I sent out 167 people requested. So I'm surprised it wasn't crazier.
Well, I guess,
So
is
that it?
Andrea
Should
still on?
I put this baby to bed?
I guess so.
I just.
Looks like counterfeit notes before I got here.
Well, I